Are you a fan of the NMR kind of test that's a little bit
Mm.
more expensive and complicated and directly measure some of the LDL subparticles? Or are you quite happy with just a really basic lipid profile, which is going to tell you triglycerides, HDL, which could be used as a pretty darn good proxy to like get you an idea of something? How do you feel about that?
The first thing people need to understand is that any lab test result is a proxy marker. Okay, that's super important. And what that means is that if your LDL is high or your ApoB is high, your doctor uses that, not that the LDL is directly causing the heart attack, but it's a proxy marker that you're at increased risk, right? And so when the NMR lipoprofile first came out, God, 15, 20 years ago, I was a huge fan of it. I thought it was just the best thing in the world because it was the latest and greatest. It was modern. There was all these extra little numbers that I had to figure out what they meant, and I was going to look very smart talking about all these, fluffy and dense and small and large. But then when I actually looked deeply into the research supporting the lipoprofile, I became completely underwhelmed by its predictive power, especially after I learned about fasting insulin, A1C, fructosamine, those sort of tests for looking at metabolic health. And so I consider the NMR lipoprofile test to be an experimental test. I don't think we have enough data yet to know for sure whether those results mean anything or not. I think the ApoB is an experimental test, which right now you know that the vegan cardiologists, they're moving away from even talking about LDL. They want to talk just only about ApoB or LP little
Interesting.
a. That's that because those are the new sexy markers, right? Like the lipoprofile was 15 years ago. That's like, oh, ApoB and LP little a. These are completely experimental. I predict that in another 3 to 10 years, nobody will ask you what your ApoB level is or check your ApoB. I think by far the most important markers when it comes to any kind of lipid panel is the triglycerides, which you want to be as low as you can get them, and the HDL cholesterol, which you want to be as high as you can get it. And I'm known for saying that LDL is the other good cholesterol. I think they're both good cholesterols because LDL cholesterol does hundreds of beneficial things in the human body. And so I think everybody focus on your triglycerides, on your HDL, on your A1C, on your fasting insulin, and on your HSCRP, which is a marker of inflammation. Those are the 5 most important metabolic tests you can get checked. If you want to check your lipoprofile or your ApoB or LP little a or any of those other sexy modern markers, I think it's fine, but don't put a lot of stock in them because I consider them to be completely and thoroughly experimental. Just like you probably remember when TMAO was becoming very big and all the vegan cardiologists were
Huge.
talking about TMAO, right? Until we figured out, hey, this is not predictive at all. And also, if you eat lots of cold water, healthy fish, they're very rich in TMAO. And so that's already fell by the wayside. And I predict ApoB will fall by the wayside just like TMAO did.
That doesn't surprise me. Thank you for that nuanced answer. I really appreciate that. And for the listener, for somebody watching, when Dr. Berry says to work on these numbers, really just work on the diet, and everything will take care of itself.
That's
And
exactly right.
I do want to be really careful about this because I think it comes across oftentimes when we're talking about, cholesterol markers, lean mass hyperresponders that you mentioned. We are not saying that some of these people shouldn't be treated, right? Like we're not saying across the board that you just eat this diet and nobody needs treatment. Like some people might elect treatment, some people might need treatment. How do you feel about the current situation as far as medications? I mean, I know we talk about statins and crazy side effects that people get, but there's also other medications that people have. How do you feel about any kind of treatment for something that might be concerning in somebody's cholesterol profile?
That's a trick question, isn't it, Casey? So the vast majority of the research that showed a benefit from the statins, Lipitor, Crestor, Zocor, and the others, all of the research that showed a benefit from the PCSK9 inhibitors like Repatha and Praluent, all of the research was designed by the pharmaceutical company that was going to profit. The researchers, with almost without exception, either owned stock in the pharmaceutical company or was an independent contractor for the pharmaceutical company or was a direct employee of the pharmaceutical company. In many cases, the pharmaceutical company and their employees designed, wrote, ran the study, and reported the results of the study. Now, I mentioned earlier, I try to think with common sense about all things. There's this little thing called human nature and perverse incentives. And so, even with the very best evidence for statins and PCSK9 inhibitors, all of which was completely under the control of the pharmaceutical company, they still can only show the tiniest of benefits, right? It's not a tremendous benefit. And so what that tells me is that they were cutting corners at every turn. They were designing this study just a little. We're going to tweak this design just a little. We're going to tweak these results just a little. We're going to exclude these people, blah, 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 right? And so if you actually went back, and I think if you just gave these statin studies to an independent researcher who did not have any skin in the game, didn't have a dog in the fight, and said, repeat this study and see if the results are reproducible, I think you would discover very, very quickly that if you're taking a statin drug for primary prevention, you're wasting your time and your money. You're lowering your coenzyme Q10 levels for no damn reason whatsoever. I think if the research were conducted ethically and equitably, so the pharmaceutical company doesn't have any input. They don't get to talk to the researchers. They don't get to exclude a certain patient population. All comers, and we're going to test this as objectively as possible. I think that people would realize just what a joke the statin drugs are.
Got it. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. I live in Utah, so I can't do this, but you can in Tennessee. If you went out and bought, rather than one lottery ticket, you bought two lottery tickets, you could say you increased your lottery tickets by 100%. But I think it would be a little foolish to think that you just doubled your chances of actually winning the lottery.
Yeah, and so your mother-in-law would yell at you and say, dummy, why did you buy one ticket? You should have bought two tickets. You would have doubled your chances of winning. And your mother-in-law would be right. But what does that doubling actually mean? But when we talk about your absolute chance of winning versus your relative risk, relative chance of winning. And I think that's what you're alluding to, because the way that the statin companies and the PCSK9 inhibitors report is, oh, this decreases your risk of heart attack by 33%. And to the average person who doesn't have a degree in statistics, they're like, damn, that's a lot. That sounds like a big deal, right? But what they don't realize is that these companies report the relative risk, not the absolute risk. And so it's the lottery ticket example. That's actually quite telling, because that's about the same. You doubled your chance of winning. Yes, that's true. But what was your absolute chance of winning? It was effectively still zero. And that's exactly how they fudged the numbers with the statins and the PCSK9 inhibitors, is they report relative risk of having a heart attack instead of your absolute risk of having a heart attack.
Well said. I appreciate that. I want to get back to lab testing for hormones. You have been prescribing hormones for quite a while, right? The bioidentical hormones.
Yes.
How do you use blood work to be able to, tell where somebody needs something there?
Yep. And so I think the vast majority, and so let me first of all say, if your doctor still says, oh, no, I'm not going to give you hormones as a menopausal woman or, as an older man, because it'll increase your risk of cancer, your doctor is behind on the reading 10 years. Okay. Right off the bat. That's just the truth. The Women's Health Initiative study that scared the hell out of all doctors, including me, but when it first came out, that's the study. It was completely jacked up, and the lead researcher reported the results before the trial was even finished. All the other researchers said, dude, what are you doing? Why did you do that? And he acted like, oh, this is a super dangerous thing. Doctors need to take all their female patients off of hormone replacement immediately. Turns out that doctor had a preconceived notion that hormones are bad. The actual research results did not show that at all in the Women's Health Initiative study. Okay. And so I think everybody, when the hormones start dipping, many people can correct their hormones by adopting and sticking to a proper human diet and living a proper human diet, which includes moving fast and lifting heavy things. Many people can fix their testosterone and other hormone levels just from that alone, just from diet and lifestyle. Some people can't, and those are the people who need to get their hormone levels checked. And then if the hormones levels are low, and what's the second thing that's just as important as the labs? If they have symptoms of low hormones, because I'll tell you, Casey, I've known women before who in their late 80s had their ovaries removed 25 years ago. Their testosterone, progesterone, and estradiol they had to be zero, right? Had to be. But this woman felt amazing. She slept like a baby. She had tons of energy. She was doing projects and going on trips. Did I need to check her hormones? Probably not, right? So I usually didn't. But if she comes to me with a long list of low progesterone symptoms, low testosterone symptoms, I'm going to check her labs. And if her labs echo what her symptoms tell me, then I'm going to recommend that she optimize her hormones with bioidentical hormone replacement therapy.